Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. We are going to be talking about this guy right here. I have in front of me the brand new Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. When this palette was announced and teased, I was super excited. The original Naked palette is so near and dear to my heart. If you guys haven't really watched a lot on my channel before, if you're new here, I have talked on my channel so much about that palette. It was the first high-end eyeshadow palette that I had ever purchased. It's really what ultimately inspired me to start my YouTube channel and to really start exploring the beauty community here on YouTube. So it had a lot of influence on me. It holds a lot of meaning. So naturally, when I saw that they were going to discontinue the original one, my heart hurt a little bit, but I figured that they had something up their sleeves to revive it because, come on, it was like the most popular eyeshadow palette ever. So I knew they weren't going to leave us high and dry. So here they are. They graced us with their presence here with the brand new Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. So this video, I'm just going to kind of go over my thoughts on the palette. I did go ahead and use it on my eyes. It is pretty much the only shadow, or it is the only shadow that I'm wearing. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. We're going to go over some swatches. There has been a lot of talk, if you follow Trend Mood at all, in the comments saying that it's pretty much the same as the ABH Sultry palette. So we're going to dive into that. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started and let's jump into the video. So I ordered the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette directly from Urban Decay's website. I'm pretty sure as of right now, that is the only place you can get it, or their pop-up or standalone stores. I think that they're in California only. Those are really the only places you can get the palette right now. I want to say March 4th or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, that you'll be able to get it at Ulta and Sephora and any other beauty stores where they sell Urban Decay. So here's what the palette looks like. This packaging is absolutely beautiful. It's the same overall size and shape of the original Naked palette, but it has like this satin, squishy, soft padded material on top. And these orchids in the background, I don't know, this palette is just beautiful to me, the packaging. I absolutely love it. And then on the side here, it says Urban Decay. Now it says this palette is made in the United States with some imported ingredients. It doesn't necessarily say where these imported ingredients are from, but it does say it is made in most part here in the US. So here's what the palette on the inside looks like. I think that the redesign is really, really cool. I love how they put the larger palettes that you're going to use the most of. In my original Naked palette, I did hit pan on some of the shadows in there, believe it or not, because some of the transition shades were just perfect and absolutely beautiful. So I do like that they kind of updated that here with the larger pans with the transition, you know, overall shades that you're probably going to use every day. And then you've got your standard pan sizes here in the center that look pretty much the same as any other Naked palette. Definitely do like the update in shades in this palette. I do like how this is laid out. I love how they have the lighter shades here and the darker shades there. It makes it very easy for someone who might not be super used to eyeshadows, they're new into shadows, or they like something that's very simple, easy, neutral, easy to figure out. So I do have to say the configuration of this is absolutely genius. I have to give them that. I think that the layout is perfect. And then obviously you do get a little bit of a mirror inside. Again, nothing different from the standard Naked palettes. I do like this packaging over some of that thicker, clunkier, chunkier plastic that they kind of went to after the original Naked palette, like the Naked Heat or the Smoky palette. I do prefer this. Now let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's address it. The Anastasia Sultry palette versus the Urban Decay new Naked Reloaded palette. So here are the two palettes obviously next to each other. At first glance, there are a lot of similarities. However, though, when I look at the Sultry palette here, I see a lot more cool tones. So this one feels a lot more cool, whereas the Urban Decay Naked palette feels a lot more warm. There are more shades in the ABH palette than there are. I believe there's 2 more shades in this palette than there are in this one. Now, obviously, you can tell that there are some shades that look similar. Obviously, Bloom and I believe the shade Retro off the bat, they look very, very similar. Some of the brown, some of the transition shades. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys some side-by-side swatches of these. All right, so I took swatches from both the Anastasia Sultry palette as well as swatches swatches from the Urban Decay Naked palette. So I tried to pick the shades that I thought looked the most similar to just kind of show you guys the difference. Now these I find are the most similar. These two right here are like so close to my skin tone, actually these four, that you probably won't be able to tell. But as you can see, they are actually pretty similar. There is some, to me, because I'm a makeup lover, some major differences in the two. Before we even get started on talking about what colors these are, can we take a look at this? Now this swatch right here is a matte shade from the Urban Decay palette. This is the shade Endgame. Oh my god, this is one swipe. I don't think I have swatched a matte that did a swatch quite like this. That is reminiscent of like a metallic shade. Like look how that swatched. Just by swatching the Urban Decay palette too, I can definitely tell that they have maybe tweaked their matte formula just a bit because it is like butter. So let's go ahead and go over the colors that I swatched. So right here, this first swatch right here is Bribe and then Fresh. So this is Bribe from Urban Decay. This is Fresh from Sultry. Then we have Angel Fire right here from Urban Decay. This is Pearl from Sultry. Then we have Retro from Urban Decay, and then we have the shade Bloom from Sultry. So obviously this one is a little bit more corally, where this one's like a little bit more red to me. They're both kind of warm, but I'd say this is a little bit more cool, whereas the Urban Decay shade Retro is a little bit more on the warm corally side. Then we have from Urban Decay Barely Baked, and then the shade Steampunk from Sultry. Then we have the shade Endgame from Urban Decay, and then the shade Dystopian from Sultry. Here, just these two swatches, Urban Decay is the winner if we're gonna compare anything in this category, because look at that swatch, you guys, I can't. Then the last two I decided to compare was the shade, so this is the shade Bucked from Urban Decay, and then this one is the shade Birch. So this is the entire Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette swatched. I do have to say that this formula does feel a lot different than the original Naked palette. I was a huge fan of that palette, but the formula just wasn't my favorite. I loved the colors and the shades, but yeah, these mattes just feel absolutely incredible. The pigmentation on this is so even and absolutely stunning. So as you guys can see, there are definitely some similarities, but to me, there are definitely a lot of differences. So let's go over what I used. Let's do that. So in the all over my lid, I went ahead and went in with Blur. I kind of use this as like my setting shade, all over lid shade. And then in the crease, I went in with the shade Boundaries. Now this shadow blended with ease. I didn't have any trouble with it at all. This shade is absolutely stunning. It has like these little tiny itty bitty micro reflex with like goldish glitter, peach tone glitter, and it is stunning. I could see myself using this shade kind of all over the lid and in the crease just for like a beautiful everyday look. Then I went into the crease with the shade Bucked right here, and that one blended out too. This one definitely needed to be built up a little bit more, but it did blend very easily as well. Then I went ahead and deepened up the outer corner, and what I used for that was the shade Endgame. This is the shade that impressed me the most in the entire palette. As you could see in the swatches, it just was like, I don't know, that was a one swipe. I'm gonna show you guys in real time. Since when does a matte swatch like that? That's like how a metallic shade swatches. That is just one swipe. So I was super impressed with that, and it blended out beautifully and just as easy as the swatch. Absolutely stunning. Then I went ahead and went in with the shade Distilled. Now these metallic shades, you have to use your finger or you have to dampen your brush. You are not gonna get really any color payoff using just a flat shader brush. You need to dampen your brush or you have to use your fingers. I know sometimes with metallic shades, you can get away with just like getting a nice light wash of color. You're not gonna get much payoff at all. So just take note of that. So I went ahead and took Distilled on a flat shader brush, got it damp, and just kind of patted right where that darker shade ended, just to kind of give it that nice ombre effect. And then all over the lid, I went in with the shade Reputation with a damp flat shader brush, just kind of put that all over the lid, just a really beautiful neutral tone. And then I went in with Angel Fire on a smaller shader brush and just put that kind of like right here on the inner part of the lid. And then to add some brightness and highlight to the brow bone and the inner corner, I went in with the shade Bribe. And I did go ahead and get the brush damp. This is more of like a satiny shade, but it does work with a damp brush as well. It did still give me that beautiful gentle highlight and just perfectly highlighted under the brow bone. Now on the lower lash line, I went in with the shade Retro. This shade is absolutely stunning. It went on with ease. It blended effortlessly. I didn't have any trouble blending it whatsoever. And then just on the outer part of the lash line, I did end up smoking this look out. I went back in with Endgame right here and just kind of drug that on the outer parts of the lower lash line just to kind of make sure this looked very seamless and blended out. So I finished off the look just with some black liner in the waterline. I tight lined, and I did actually take a little bit of the black liner on the top lid here, which I very rarely do. Obviously I didn't smoke it out or do a cat eye or anything, but I did ultimately end up going with a more smokier look, and then finished off the look with, where is it, my ColourPop mascara. So I do have to say overall, I am extremely impressed with this palette. Is it the same as Sultry? I'm gonna go ahead and say absolutely not. There are some major differences. Sultry's shadows, again, are a completely different texture, a completely different blend, and they do have very different undertones in my opinion. However, I will say that the metallics in the Sultry palette definitely pack more of a punch. It doesn't disappoint me though that these are more on the buildable side because again, like I said, it's naked. It's supposed to be more nude. At least that's how I interpret it. That's just my opinion on it. Overall though, they are very different palettes. So comparing the two, completely different formulas, completely different undertones. They behave totally different. They couldn't be more on opposite ends of the spectrum, if you ask me in my opinion. Some of you might ask, if I have Sultry, do you feel like I need the Naked Reloaded palette? Well, that's gonna be up to you. I just feel like me personally, I prefer the undertones and the type of shadow that is in this palette over the Sultry palette. I have never actually been a very huge fan of ABH shadows. They just haven't worked well for me personally. But speaking just on the colors and the shade options, all that kind of stuff, I do have to say that I prefer the Naked Reloaded palette, and I love this eye look that I came up with. I would definitely continue to wear an eye look like this. I can't wait to try more neutral looks from this palette. And when I say neutral, meaning like, I should say daytime. I can't wait to create more lighter, softer daytime looks. This is something that I could reach for every single day. These shadows in here are every single day, every single night colors. They can easily be transitioned to a night look from a day look. And I do have to say the mattes in here are just like, wow, some of the best matte shadows that I have tried in a really long time. Urban Decay, you did an amazing job on updating the Naked palette. I think this is absolutely beautiful. If you love nude shadows, give it a shot, give it a try. I think this is priced a little bit lower too. I think this was only $44, where I feel like some of the other Naked palettes in the past have either been $48 or $52, correct me if I'm wrong. So I do like the price point more, and I think the value, the color layout, the shades, the versatility makes this palette a giant win. And again, that packaging, that is stunning. Like, I want this out on my vanity. Let me know what you guys think of this palette. Did you pick it up? Are you waiting to see more reviews? What did you think of this review? Do you own Sultry as well? Give me your thoughts about that. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you liked it, share it, and of course be sure to subscribe to my channel before you go. I love you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye guys.